One evening as the sun went down.
I'm afraid I have a very deep, personally wounding thing to share with everybody. This is my favorite bushcrafting knife. Not expensive, but I found it outside on the back porch where I had apparently left it. Some of the sad evidence is emerging. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What a disaster. Perhaps I didn't have enough oil on it to survive being rained on. Wow, so what do you do with this? Oh, it's still wet. I think we're going to have to do something about it. We'll start with a wire brush, get the big chunks off. I've got the wire brush not turning into the sharp edge of the blade. Might have been a finish on here, but I'm sure it's going to be shot after this. Let's see, I have to turn this around. Woo! I think it's been outside for a couple of days. So sad. Got a Scotch-Brite pad here. Been trying to think of a way to incorporate. I've been wanting to make a new holster so that all of my knives have a holster of my own manufacture. And one of the things I'd like to work into a holster, and this is kind of a difficult problem, is some form of blade protectant. I don't know if wax can work well enough or not. I've actually thought about, saw a really interesting video, I don't remember who the creator was, I'll put a link up, on goose fat. But the problem with carrying any kind of greases or oils with a leather product is one way or another it's going to get into the leather. And it's going to spread across the leather and make it darker and darker. And then that stuff will get on the things that touch that holster. Maybe I could do a black holster, but it would just be interesting to find a solution for that problem. May not be a solution for that problem. This is a fairly coarse Scotch-Brite pad. I want to initially get the rust off of here. Still have it on the spine. This knife's going to look like I'm very, very much more experienced at bushcrafting than I really am. I keep leaving it outside. It'll gain lots of patina. This is a Condor, I think it's called a Bushlore, about a $40 knife. It's made in the Americas, in South America. Fairly well respected for a knife of this cost. I don't have any expensive knives. This is probably the most... I bought a Jeff White knife. Or Jeff Smith. Yeah, Jeff White or Jeff Smith. Jeff White knife. I probably have about that much in that knife. So this is going to affect the finish on the handle. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'll probably, after I get the edge looking good here, where it goes through the handle, and get this all cleaned up, I'll probably refinish it. I'll sand all the surfaces so they all look about the same, and then I'll put a oiled linseed oil on it. Good classic material for finishing something. We'll see if I can save it. It's already looking quite a bit better. Not the end of the world. Just the end of my reputation. So we all make mistakes, such is life. I think I've come quite a ways in just a few minutes we've been doing this. Yeah, perhaps I shouldn't have touched that finish. Maybe I can put something back on. I don't know. It's looking quite a bit better. A little bit of staining here. They'll probably blend away as I use boiled linseed oil on the handle. Just as a note, linseed oil is an interesting kind of finish. It doesn't dry, it doesn't cure in that way, it oxidizes. And that's one of the reasons why whenever you're finishing with linseed oil or any kind of material that finishes by oxidation, it makes heat. So you never want to take a big pile of linseed oil soaked rags, throw them in a waste can, because you'll sure start a fire. I haven't done any big projects where I've had more than a couple paper towels with boiled linseed oil in them, so I'll usually just put them outside on the ground or on something outside opened up. And I leave them for a few days, give them plenty of time to cure before I throw them in the waste can. I'm just not going to take any chances at all. Probably no risk at all with just a couple of rags, but why do I need to set a fool's example? There's no skin off my back to be careful, so I'll just let them cure out. And one of the things, and something I've been thinking about in sheath making, is having sheaths that are wet formed to fit the blade very closely. In the possibility of using a leather treatment oil, here it is, I use Obenauf's. I learned about this from Cody on the Wranglerstar channel. And this is a leather treatment. It has beeswax in it. Boy, the leather really soaks this up. My idea being that if the sheath fits the blade very closely, perhaps you get a little oil treatment every time you put it together. So this is what the material looks like. It has a little bit of an off smell that you'll notice on your fingers after you've used it. Seems to me this jar cost me about $20. I've used it on a number of items. I think it's a really good investment, and it comes highly recommended from people that know a lot more about it than me. I still have, I don't know if you can see that, but I still have some, a little bit of pitting or graying in here. I don't know if that shows. All of the finishing marks in the blade are in the vertical. So I'm going to make my last cuts. And this does remove metal. I'm going to make my last cuts in the vertical instead of in the horizontal, because I want my strokes to look factory as possible. So the last ones will all be in the vertical. think I'm taking the finish off. I might mask this off and do a gun bluing or something on the blade. Steel blades, non-stainless steel blades, tend to rust, and those will usually have a finish on them, except for where it's sharpened, just to reduce the amount of rust that you get. I'm glad this isn't a $100, $200, $500 knife. Most people that have those never bring them out. I don't want a hanger queen here. Hanger queen, that's airplane talk for an airplane that's so beautiful the owner can't bear to bring it out and fly it. So it just becomes a hanger queen. So I don't know what the equivalent in the bushcrafting community is. Maybe a display knife. So I don't really see any point in having anything that I don't feel like I can use. So, I don't know. What do you think? Have I pulled something from the depths of ruin here? Wow, if that had gotten wet and then I'd noticed I'd left it outside and I had just put it away with that moisture in the sheath for a long time, my goodness, what I might have found a few weeks from now would have been a very sad occasion. Or I wouldn't have been able to save it. Well, there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to wash my hands before I get in the linseed oil. I'm going to go ahead and linseed oil this. We'll see what happens. Little dark marks in the wood here concern me a little bit. Probably won't be able to sand those out. I'm sure I'll have to resharpen this after getting this cutting cloth anywhere near the blade. Oops, shouldn't have made any scratches in that direction. Remember what I said I was going to do. I want all the scratches in the spine of the knife here to be in this direction, because that's how it was finished originally. See reviews on these Condor products, and there's various levels of finish and sharpness on them when they come to you. It makes me wonder if these are not a cottage industry, where they're maybe not made in a factory, but women or whoever's taking them home and finishing 10 or 20 knives at a time. You know, the finer stuff. There's a lot of cottage industries in the third world like that. Hopefully, my country will not become a third world country. A lot of people will make a lot of arguments complaining about conditions in third world countries and not wanting to buy things from those people, you know, because they don't like the status of their buildings or how their government treats them or whatever, and or how employers, you know, whether they feel that they're receiving a living wage or things of that nature. But you know, a poor country, often they're poor because of the kind of government and the kind of leadership they've had. And it's not showing mercy on the people there when they have simple, labor-intensive industries, and that's all they've been able to work their way up to under usually a non-free method of government. It's not showing mercy on them to refuse to buy their products. They're going to go from poor to starving to death. You know, if they have a product to share with the world, it's a high It's a high morality for us to trade with them if we can. It's their foothold in the world, and there's nothing moral or high ground ethical to refuse to do business with someone because you don't like the living conditions that they have. We need to empower them by doing business with them. It's trade that brings people out of poverty, not high-minded idealism and pointing and complaining and whining and crying and all the other hysteria that we see from people not capable of very much intelligence. Be the person that is capable of intelligence. You know, this is the way people are not refugees. They're able to earn something. And I have no idea how the people live in El Salvador where these knives are made. But I appreciate whoever made this knife. Alright, wash up and we'll refinish. Okay, I have the garden variety available at Menards and probably everywhere else, boiled linseed oil. Now, if I was Bill in the Hill, or Bill in the Woods, I would make my own linseed oil, but I'm not. Maybe I should have challenged him to send me some linseed oil to refinish this knife. I bet he would have done so. I know he's capable of making it. I believe he made that in one of his videos where he made his oilcloth. Oh, I need to put it on that. The boiled linseed oil is interesting. It's just like you have a cooking oil on your hands, like vegetable oil. It's not sticky, very clean. So, looks pretty good now, don't it? It's got showing making that grain stick through. I think it looks better than it looked before. I like the color better. It was had a little bit of a bleached out look. And no, I didn't leave it in the sun to get that look. It just was not a really full color when it came. Now, boiled linseed oil, I'll probably do a couple coats of this, and I think it really takes it a couple days to dry. By the second day, it doesn't feel wet, but I noticed the rags will still feel just a little wet on the next day. So, get that protected. That looks pretty good. I think I will go ahead and put this on the blade, because since I don't have any kind of protectant or oil on it, I don't want to get any oil on this blade before I've sealed up the scales. Now, if the oxidizing linseed oil on the metal blade causes any kind of discoloration, well, I'll be able to clean that off pretty easy. Because I'll eventually want to oil the blade. So there you go. Solve that problem in not too many minutes. Shh, don't tell anybody I did that to my knife. Little bonus here. I noticed there was moisture on the knife, so there's probably moisture still in the sheath. And I took this quick grip here. It's got this little roll pin pressed through the end of it, and wrap a paper towel around it. Hopefully that roll pin will kind of snag up in the paper towel and I can swab the inside of this. I hope it doesn't ruin the color in the sheath, but I think I'm going to also put some alcohol on the paper towel and kind of wet down the inside. Alcohol is hygroscopic, and hygroscopic means it absorbs water. And then alcohol evaporates very quickly, so it may discolor the sheath temporarily, but it should help to dry out the sheath. Just the same alcohol you'd use in an alcohol stove, denatured alcohol. There might be some leather aficionado watching me right now cringing in horror at what I'm about to do, but I'm not too worried about ruining the sheath. It's really a pretty decent sheath, but I'd like to have one that hangs a little lower. So that'll help dry it out. Now, I definitely won't put the knife back in the sheath for at least a few days. So I'll definitely be sure that it's dry, but I just want to take every step I know how to do this job properly. Yeah, looks pretty good. So there you go. Now I think I'm as done as I can be until tomorrow.